Hello everyone, this is Rito, and today we're going to have a look at some Warcry stats and figures. So what I set out to do was have a look at all the new fighter cards that were released recently for Warcry's different warbands, so that's Games Workshop's Warcry, and dig into the numbers, see which models are actually worth their cost, which might not be, and just get a feel for which units is really worth taking or for which ones it might not be. And doing that strictly mathematically and not just like on gut feeling, which I feel might be a better way to build a list. So let's have a look then. Today we're going to focus on the Skaven. Don't worry guys, it's not going to look this ugly for much longer, but I want to show you something before we move on to my nicer data sets. The way this works and the way I've come up with some interesting numbers here is the following. So what I did here was take any fighter in the warband, put in all the kinds of stats into this table, and then using this kind of calculation, it looks a bit more difficult than it actually is. I found out what kind of average damage they do for each activation, or for each action really they take. So if a Storm Vermin leader takes one attack against an opponent with toughness 4, he'll do 5.4 damage on average. So you can see if I drop this to 3, for example, this value will change, so it's going to be 6.7 damage now. So let's go back to toughness 4, because I feel like that's kind of an average for many fighters. We'll see. And as you can see here, I've done the same for Onslaught, so I just checked what would happen if the fighter had Onslaught here. Obviously, as you can see, the damage is going up. And then I also divided that damage by the fighter's point value, because obviously a more expensive fighter, obviously the Storm Vermin leader for 170 points is going to do more damage than a Clan Red for 75 points. But I really wanted to feel which one is worth their cost, so to do that I had to divide the damage they could do by the point value. So let's check it out, looking a bit more nicely. As you can see, again, these are the different fighters in the warband. Now on this table there's none of their stats, it's only the damage values and the damage per point value. For this I've used some color schemes, so essentially green is very good, dark green is good, dark green is very good, green is good, yellow is like mediocre, not bad, not good. The lighter red is quite bad already, and the dark red is a fighter you really shouldn't be using much at all. So let's have a look then. Well, what you can see here is that the Storm Vermin leader, for example, he's like average for his point value. He's doing decent enough damage. You'll see that all of the damages are basically between 0.01 and 0.05 or 6. 0.05 is very, very good. That's extremely high up there in the damage per point values, and 0.01 is very much the lowest you can get. So, but all fighters across all warbands, they are in this kind of range. So it's not a massive difference between all of the fighters, but you'll come to see that it's quite important. So let's start checking out all the different models. The Storm Vermin leader at 0.03 damage, he's decent. We have activations to be killed. This is not based on their points. This is based on an exemplary opponent I've used. So I just said, hey, there's an opponent who has 4 attacks, strength 4, damage 2, 4. So like a medium to stronger kind of fighter. And how often does he need to punch this model to kill it? So this, for example, the Storm Vermin leader needs 4 activations to be killed, or 4 actions. Yeah, so that's obviously also kind of average. It's fine. He won't be going down in one single turn. So yeah, I think for 170 points he's alright. Then let's have a look at the normal Storm Vermin. The normal Storm Vermin has a lot less wounds, and therefore he's already taken down in 2 activations. Which is a bit bad, because that means that if he starts, like if you run him in next to a fighter and then the other fighter gets to swing 2 attacks, that will kill the Storm Vermin. So it's probably not a good idea to leave him standing next to any kind of good combatant. The damage is actually decent. I thought it might be worse, but no, it's for the points value again, the damage is alright. Then we get to the Storm Vermin with shield. As you can see, his damage value is pretty bad. He's only doing 2 damage on average during 1 action. 4.1 if you can get 2 hits in. That's just very pitiful, to be honest. And especially for a model at his points, which is then obviously represented here, where he's marked red. He needs 3 activations to be killed, so he's slightly tougher than the Storm Vermin with Halberd. So it's your kind of decision whether or not you really want your Storm Vermin to survive for an extra hit, or to deal some extra damage. In my opinion, the Storm Vermin with Halberd might be a bit better, because both of them have 2-inch range, so that means you're going to be able to stand outside of most enemies' range while attacking them, getting your better damage in. And then once you're attacked back, the enemy will only have 1 activation and 1 action, so not quite enough to take the Storm Vermin down. So and the same is going to be true for the Storm Vermin shield, but if that's going to be true for both of them, you might as well take the one with the better damage. Moving on, we've got the Clan Rat leader. Now, normally he'd be incredibly good value for money. I'm not going to lie. On his card it says 45 points, and if I had put that into my calculation, he would be off the charts. I used 145 points for my calculation because I think that's what he's meant to be, and I'm pretty sure it's a typo. Obviously that's just my opinion, but I've used him as 145 points because I'm very sure that's what CA meant to do. And we'll see. I think there's going to be an FAQ not too far off that will prove me right there. Anyways, decent damage, decent activations to be killed. I think the Clan Rat leader is still a decent option, even at 145 points. The Clan Rat with a stab weapon, like with the blade, basically. He's again decent damage, nothing great to be honest, but obviously he gets killed a lot easier. Being killed on 2 activations is not great. The Clan Rat spear goes down in damage, as you can see here. Over 2 attacks, he's almost a full damage lower than the normal Clan Rat. He does have the 2-inch range though, which obviously can't be represented in this scenario. And he also takes 2 activations to be killed, although then again, staying out of combat range of an opponent might make him more survivable than you might think from this. Then we get to the Plague Monk, who has insane damage for the points value. So as you can see here, he's double the damage that the Clan Rat Spear does. Yeah, very nice damage at 6.8 over 2 activations for a 70-point model. That's very, very good. However, with being only toughness 3 and 8 wounds, he will go down to a single hit of this opponent right here, so he's squishy. But I think some of the to me this is worth it. I think having a couple of plague monks is certainly good because they can just swarm and still deal some very good damage. Then we've got the plague monk leader. Him, on the other hand, for his points, he's 150 points, I think, and almost no better damage than the normal plague monk. Obviously, it's a bit better. It's like 1 damage above, but it comes out to a lower damage per point value. So I don't know if he's worth bringing. And he'll die in 3 activations. Obviously, he has a unique quad ability, but whether you think that's worth it or not is your choice. Then we've got the plague monk with his staff. His damage output is also quite good, a bit lower than the normal plague monks, about 1 point lower in general, which makes him like only light green, so a bit worse in damage output. Equally is easy to kill, but you can again stand outside the opponent's reach. However, for this fight I don't think it makes a difference, because even staying outside of an opponent's reach and punching them, they can come back and punch you once and you still die. So even if the opponent has to move in, he will still be able to kill you. So in this instance, I don't think the plague monk with the staff is worth it at all over the normal plague monk. Moving on, we have the Packmaster. Now, this is probably not going to surprise you. His damage is pitiful. He has 3-inch range, which is nice, but his damage is horrible. He only needs 1 activation to be killed. So, on paper he looks like a bad model to take. I guess he's only worth it if you're going to run red ogres or giant rats and you really want to buff them with this Packmaster, but he really ought to stay well behind. Then we've got the giant rat, and the giant rat is the only fighter in the entirety of Warcry, and you can see I've looked at a lot of warbands. It must be about 20 now that I've already calculated through. And the giant rat is the only one that gets to 0.06 over here, so he's actually the best damage per point value that you can get in the entire game. At only 35 points, still packing a hefty 4.1 damage over 2 activations is very, very strong. Yeah, obviously it only needs 1 activation to be killed, and that's by virtually anything, but I still think that the giant rat is extremely good. Then we've got the Night Runner. The Night Runner is a very different story because his damage is abysmal. This is the range damage, not to forget. So yes, his 2 ranged attacks are just abysmal for his kind of points that he costs. He adds very little, and he's also very squishy. So if you really want that ranged poke, you can take the Night Runner, but otherwise I would not go for him. Then we've got the Red Ogre. The Red Ogre is 0.5, so you can see he's very good in terms of damage output for his points value, and he's very good in activations to be killed as well. It takes 6 activations by this opponent to take him down, so I like the Red Ogre. For the Red Ogre with gun, the reason his damage here is so much lower is obviously because I've looked at his ranged weapon. However, his melee weapon is the same as the normal Red Ogre. So if you take him like as a slightly better version of the normal Red Ogre, yeah, go for it. You know, he's still going to be able to check out 8 damage ranged, which isn't bad at all. Just not worth the point cost, of course, but he's then still a normal Red Ogre after doing those 8 damage in range. So I still like him. Then we've got the Storm Fiends, and I'm going to do these 3 at the same time. As you can see here, the Doomflayer, the Shock Gauntlets, and the Warp Grinder, they are all extremely similar. All of them do like basically the same amounts of damage, 26.8, 24.2 and 26.9. So the shock gauntlet being the only one that's like slightly worse. And if you increase the opponent's toughness, you can see that the warp grinder is the one that like reacts best to that. But yeah, he still stays very similar to the Doomflayer, so I think either of these two is quite good. And obviously, these guy toughness 5 and 35 wounds, they are very survivable as well. Getting to the wind launcher, his range damage is horrible. He does only 5.4 damage on ranged at range on average. Sorry. So his 0.01 damage, that's abysmal for his points value. Yeah, don't ever take him. Then we've got the rattling gun, 10-inch range, so only half that of the wind launcher, but also double damage, which makes him immediately a lot better. Obviously, being a ranged guy, the rattling and the flamethrower and the wind launcher as well will not do as well in terms of damage. That's how Games Workshop have balanced ranged, so in kinds of damage per point they will always suffer. But yeah, I think the rattling gun or the flamethrower are both a lot better calls compared to the wind launcher. So that wraps up today's video. Please let me know what you want to see next. If there's any war bands you really want me to dig into and explore, let me know. If you want to see something else, if there's like more statistics you'd like, if you have ideas for how I could incorporate movement and range into my statistics, I would love to hear those. And hopefully see you at the next one. Thank you and take care.